Hello, Rebecca, Stacy, Yvette, Jennifer, Lucretia, Nicole, Brianna, Denise, Anna, Moish, Heather, Paulina, and Sarah. We're already halfway done. Week 3 is complete. We're already into week 4. Thank you for the really great discussion this week. I just thought it was a wonderful discussion. A lot of really good points and a lot of really practical, helpful information. And I think some good insights into operations management, some good insights into what inventory control means based on our own experience that we all have trying to manage households. I really want to thank you for sharing your inventory strategies. A lot of you had some really good insights to share, and I will be taking note of some of those things, keeping my eye on first in and first out. And Stacy, I'll keep my eye on first in, first out. And Rebecca, your idea of having that list and holding people accountable for writing things down when they use the last of an item. When they bring the inventory to zero, everybody is, whoever does that is responsible for making note that inventory is down to zero and we need to restock. I appreciate that we talked about some of the key inventory models. Of course, just-in-time is extremely popular these days, and I appreciate the variety of insights that we had about that. A lot of you talked about just-in-time as an ideal way to deal with produce, since produce spoils. So really, that expands to inventory in businesses too. Items that do go bad, items that do have a shelf life. Might make sense to have those on a just-in-time inventory model. On the other hand, some of you talked about, Yvette and a couple others talked about just-in-case inventory model, that the idea that you keep a big supply of certain things around so that you don't run out. And in our households, things like toilet paper and toothpaste, things that don't spoil, good to have extras of those around. I'm a big fan of just-in-case model for toilet paper. And in the business world, if you have a product that you know customers will be extremely disappointed if you run out of it, and that you'll lose some customer goodwill if you run out of a product, it makes sense to have that use the just-in-case model for that, so that you keep your customer loyalty. That is one of the things that you need to factor in when you're calculating the cost of inventory. And that's what these models are trying to help us do, is to minimize the cost of inventory. And perhaps the clearest model for doing that is the economic order quantity. You actually have a formula where you figure out what's the cost of the product, what's the cost of an order, what's the cost of storing it. And one thing that you might want to factor in too, that some formulas will have you factor in, is what is the cost of disappointing a customer if you don't have the item in stock. And you try to figure all those things out to decide how much of these things do you really need to keep around. And there's, like I said, there's equations, there's math behind it to do that. Another thing that I wanted to say is thank you for sharing your individual knowledge and perspectives. I appreciated, Jen, that you were willing to share your experience with just-in-time inventory at Verizon and how that wasn't always the best model, that model didn't work sometimes. And I think this is an example of what I was just talking about. If you have customer disappointment, if you have customer frustration because they can't get their charger, there's a cost to that. There's a cost to that that's probably greater than what it costs to have a few more of those items in inventory. And Heather, I want to say thank you for using your experience at Walgreens to answer Nicole's question about keeping track of items specifically, whether it's the blue nail polish or the red nail polish, and that matters in terms of inventory. And as you said, there can be employee error that would mess things up. The kind of quick way of scanning one item twice when it looks like they're the same thing, but if they aren't really the same thing, that will mess up your inventory. Also reminding us that geography matters for the way that we approach inventory. Brianna talking about how when you move from 5 minutes away from the grocery store to 45 minutes away, that changed the way that you thought about inventory, and really encouraged you to do more planning and be more careful about what you had on hand. And Paulina talking about your experience from moving from Russia, where you had farmers markets all year round and easy access to fresh produce daily to the United States, where we still have fairly easy access to fresh produce, but not to farmers markets, and organic is quite a bit more expensive in most of the places that you would buy produce here. So it does force you to adjust your inventory model. And then the last thing that I want to just briefly mention that came up in the discussion forum is expiration dates. And expiration dates on food are a completely voluntary thing, except for things like baby formula and prescription medication. So those dates are just kind of voluntary. They're recommendations, and a lot of the longer term items that you have on the shelf, the canned goods, dry goods, really last a lot longer and are completely fine to eat past those dates on the package. So I put in the announcement that where this video is listed, I put links to a couple of articles about that, because I think it's worth reading a little bit about, because although it does affect the way we do inventory, because those things could stick around a little bit longer, but it also obviously impacts wasting food, which is, as you all know, kind of a big problem, not only in our country, but really in most places. So I give you that information for what it's worth. And again, I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work and an excellent week of discussion. Moving on into the second half of the course. Have a great day.